So over the weekend, you should have read through chapter 19 of the Scarlet Letter, and that's where we're going to pick up this week. We only have 4 readings this week. On Friday, we're going to just do a review of the book, and I want to, like I did with Gatsby, and just go over the main theme so everybody understands. But so we're almost done with the book, and the reading today is going to be Arthurian literature, something referred to as Triston and Isolde. We're going to get to that, but basically, what I want you to take out of these chapters is, again, how the secret guilt and the public shame are different, and how Hester is thriving, and how Dimmesdale is really suffering. And also in these chapters from 11 to 19, we develop a love story. It's kind of strange how you can have a love story. Because remember, Dimmesdale is Pearl's father. And Dimmesdale loves Hester, even though we have had very little interaction between them. The only time we've seen them talking is in the very beginning when Dimmesdale is pushing Hester to, you have to tell us who the father is. The father probably can't come forward because he's afraid for himself. And Hester's like, no, I'm not going to take that on. And then later on, in a few chapters later, when Pearl's gotten older and Pearl's, acting out, and the town is thinking about taking Pearl away from Hester, Hester's like, you need to do something about this Dimmesdale, period. But doesn't say why. Doesn't say she doesn't come out and say you're the father of the baby. You need to do something about this. He just plays to him. And there's an awesome movie adaptation that I show when I teach this, made in the late 70s, and the woman who plays Hester, the actress who plays Hester, really just puts it on Dimmesdale, and like her eyes are flaring, and she's got these real deep blue eyes, and it's just an excellent scene. But they haven't any interaction other than that in the novel. All right, so now we're on here, and Pearl is like 7 years old now. Okay. And so Dimmesdale's been living with this guilt. This father, he's the father of this child, and he loves this woman, and he gets up every Sunday and he preaches, about sin and how to be a better person, and etc. And remember, go all the way back to Jonathan Edwards, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, how Edwards was so forceful, come out of sin, you're going to go to hell, burning lake, etc. And Dimmesdale is here preaching, and he's such a hypocrite. And he knows it, and he hates it, and he's taken to holding his chest. He's taken to holding his chest right here over his heart, all right? It's this sign. And all these people love him. Everybody in the town loves him. He's awesome, so-and-so. And so Chillingworth is Hester's actual father, if you don't, not father, Hester's actual husband, if you don't remember. And he told Hester, I'm not worried about you, I'm not angry at you, but I'm going to find out who the father is. And so Chillingworth has become a doctor in town, and he's moved in with Dimmesdale to take care of Dimmesdale. He's not 100% certain. He's thinking that Dimmesdale may be the father. And they form this odd friendship, all right? So Dimmesdale is given these extremely powerful sermons, most powerful ever. He's fueled by his own guilt, all right? And he's almost trying to talk himself up, all right, about he's in stages of denial and bargaining and all these things like that. His sermons are extremely powerful. The topics are full of sin, and he's so beat up. He's destroying himself from the inside. He even begins to hallucinate, have horrible nightmares. And so one night, in the cover of darkness, he goes and he gets atop the scaffold. And this is the second of the 3 scaffold scenes I told you about. He gets up on top of the scaffold and he screams like, I did it, so-and-so, I did it. And nobody hears him. They hear this scream, but they think it's like a devil, a demon, all right? Nobody hears anything. And then as they're walking by, just so happened, Hester and Pearl are there. They're walking by, and he says, please come up here and share the scaffold with me, etc. And they get up there, and they're there, and they hold hands and whatever. But he he hasn't said what's going on. And Hester takes his hand. Pearl takes his hand and says, "Hey, well, why don't you stand out here with us in the daylight?" And Dimmesdale's like, "No, I can't do that, whatever," because he's afraid. He doesn't want to be, ostracized. He doesn't want to be stoned. He doesn't want to be killed. He doesn't want to happen to him what happened to Hester. He's not willing to give up his worldly possessions and his worldly place for his quote-unquote mistakes, and suffer the same fate as Hester. All right, so there's a big symbolism here as they're up there. A big meteorite comes through, or like a shooting star or whatever, and it makes the shape of an A in the sky. It's figurative language. It's not true. It's a fiction. And the A, of course, stands for the adultery. It's more like a pushing on Dimmesdale. Like, look at this. God's trying to tell you something. People in town see it, and they think it stands for angel because somebody in town died, and it must be a sign that he went to heaven. Chillingworth is there, and Chillingworth comes in and he watches them, and he says, "Dimmesdale, hey, come on down, Dimmesdale. I'll take you back to the house, whatever." And now Chillingworth is almost 100% certain that Dimmesdale is the father. All right. Now Hester, during all this time, she still has the A on her chest, but so much time has gone by, and she's made a different person of herself, and she helps people, and she's become like a caretaker, and she takes care of the poor, and she does all kinds of things like that. People have forgotten. They've moved on to some other scandal. It's like she's become yesterday's news, and people have almost forgotten that the A stood for adultery, and they start calling her Abel. Hester is Abel. That's what it stands for. So she's like almost thriving in this new position because she accepted her punishment and she held her head high, where Dimmesdale was completely suffering because he's living this life. Then Hester kind of gets tired. Hester knows what Chillingworth is doing to Dimmesdale, and she gets tired of it, and she goes to see Chillingworth, and she says, "You leave him alone." And, it's like, this is why. You know what you're doing. You know who he is. And Chillingworth is like, I knew it. I knew it was him. And Hester's like, I'm going to tell everybody who you are if you do not stop messing with Dimmesdale. And Chillingworth is like, ha ha ha. He's like, he's the villain of this. Chillingworth is. So this is, a real important section of the novel, because identity emerges in it. Identity of how people are perceived, the ways in which society tries to define a person are at complete odds with the way the individual defines him or herself. You get put into this little corner, this little box. It's easy for people to understand other people if they can just think, oh, well, this person is this. This person is this. There is this word, and it's my favorite word in the English language. It's called sonder, S-O-N-D-E-R. And basically it means like you come to the realization that every single person on earth, billions and billions of us, and all the people who've lived before us and all the people who live after us, have their own unique identity and sense of themselves and hopes and goals and dreams and complexity, just like you are. And it's just mind-boggling. I talked about this one time on Facebook back when I was still a Facebook poster, and one of the reasons why I got off Facebook was because somebody responded. He said, "Well, that's just a made up word. It's not true." And he gave me this list of like how it came to be, and it's not a real word. And I thought to myself, well, all words are made up words. Duh. Anyway, so sonder. So this is what it is. Identity is important in this section because Hester and Dimmesdale and Chillingworth all have this idea of who they are, and it doesn't fit with the little boxes that society have put them in. All right, so now how we end this section up through chapter 19 is Dimmesdale is in the forest. Hester goes to find him and does find him, and they have this real consummation of this love that's been building for so long, and nobody's there. They're out of the public eye. They can share their love, and Hester tells Dimmesdale about Chillingworth, and he's angry at first, but then he realizes that it's why Dimmesdale she was trying to protect me, and that Chillingworth is the real evil person. He's the real villain. And they say, look, Hester's like, look, let's just get out of here. Why do we got to stay here? Let's go back to Europe, and we can live a life. And you can be a father, and I can be a wife, and I don't, and a mother, and a husband, and I can throw this away, and we can completely reinvent ourselves. And Dimmesdale's like, you know what? That's awesome. Let's do that. And so they have this real big moment of joy. And Pearl comes over and they talk to Pearl about it. And it's just wonderful. And if the book could end then, it would be happily ever after. But again, in English class, very few times do we teach anything that ends happily ever after. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about Triston and Isolde. It should have been your reading, your common lit, and we're going to talk about how that corresponds with these chapters that we've done. And Isolde, and Triston and Isolde is in Arthurian literature, King Arthur. If you're an English 4, I'll teach you about that. Knights of the Round Table, chivalry, Lancelot, Guinevere, Merlin, Excalibur, all that stuff. All right, so basically, Triston and Isolde is a poem about forbidden love, pretty much. And I'm not going to read all of it because it's a very long poem. And so I'm just going to hope you read it. We're going to go over the answers. But I introduced this poem after students have read through chapter 19 when, Hester and Dimmesdale, they finally get reunited in the forest. Because I want you to make connections between the two about secretive love and sin. I want you to think about comparing the love of the couples and what's threatening to keep them apart in the Scarlet Letter and in Triston and Isolde, and how is love represented through the imagery of both the poem and the novel. All right, so let's go here. We read it. I want you to read it. You should have read it. Let's answer the questions. All right, whoa, where's number 1? Where's number 1? All right, here we go. Which of the following best describes the central conflict in the poem? The answer is B. Central conflict in this poem revolves around the secrecy of Tristan and Isolde's love and the strife this secret brings them as they keep it from King Mark. Number 2, the answer is A. Which of the following best summarizes the narrator's use of imagery? The narrator describes their love using images of light, sun, other typically golden images that portrays innocence and happiness. This goes directly back to chapter 19 when light shines on Hester. When the light shines on Hester, when they realize, when everything is taken away and they realize that they're going to have happiness, the light shining in. All right, number 3. The answer is B. Which of the following quotes best supports the answer? So the sunny moments rolled, and they wove bright threads of gold through the common web of life. That's lyrical. That's beautiful. Number 4. The answer is C. What does the word capricious most likely mean? Inconsistent. Which of the following phrases best supports the answer to part A? D. Wild changes. All right, now here's this question. What is the conclusion? Hold on. What is the conclusion? Daggone it, where is it? All right, I apologize. What is the conclusion of the poem suggest about Tristan and Isolde, and how does it impact the overall meaning of the poem? Well, the last 10 lines of the poem, it implies, the conclusion implies the overall meaning of the text. Final 10 lines of the poem describe the height of their love and how it turns sour. It mentions dreaming hours, daydreams, during which the couple would think it better to be dead than to hide their love. I mean, this is like Romeo and Juliet all over again. I mean, this is a story old as time. Romeo and Juliet, Hester and Dimmesdale, forbidden love. Declaration suggests that the couple will come upon difficult times as they continue. Contributes to the overall meaning of the poem, and that it acknowledges the challenges the two will face and the possibility that even the strength of their love will not be enough to sustain the affair. Same thing Hester and Dimmesdale go through. All right, let's move on down here and answer these. In the context of this poem, how does love emerge? Is the love between Tristan and Isolde true? Is their love an act of betrayal towards Mark? That's the story, man. This is like Guinevere and King Arthur and Lancelot all over again, which is, we can get to that later. It's the end of chapter 19, and everything's out in the open as far as between Chillingworth and Hester and Dimmesdale and Pearl. Now, the townfolk don't know. And they say they're going to go and they're going to live happily ever after in Europe. Do you think that's what's going to happen? Anyway, what you need to do is you need to go and finish the novel. It's not that much left in it. Go and finish the novel. For when we come back, we're going to talk about sin. We're going to wrap things up here with the novel. And then we have one more common lit called The Worst Sin. It's an informational text. And well, not say no. That's Copenhagen. This is a parable. This is a parable. I'm actually talking to you a little bit about what parables are as well. So go ahead and finish reading it. And until I see you again, great day to be a warrior.